Welcome to the 12th Report with Blessings Musugu, and these are the headlines. Now, an update on the ASUU strike threat. University lecturers to decide next move as federal government meets over 2009 agreement. Also, despite wide endorsement for Tinubu 2027, APC has said its presidential ticket remains open to all aspirants, meaning anyone can contest. And prominent Kenyan activist and government critic Boniface Mwangi announces bid for president in 2027. Whoosh, it's about to be an interesting year. As usual, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country. Sagir Ibrahim and Bettina Nweli from Abuja, Austin Azu from Delta State, and of course, Chizoba Anyowe from Plateau State. We've got the details in a moment. And now to the stories. President Bola Tinubu is back home in Nigeria after concluding a diplomatic tour that took him to Japan and Brazil. The president's engagement during the trip focused on strengthening economic partnerships, attracting foreign investment, and boosting cooperation in key sectors, including technology, trade, and energy. In Japan, he held talks with government officials and business leaders, while discussions in Brazil centered on bilateral trade and agricultural development. According to the presidency, the tour is part of broader efforts to reposition Nigeria on the global stage and drive sustainable growth at home. News Central's Bettina Nweli, who has been monitoring the president's trips, joins us now for update. Bettina, what are the key takeaways from the president's trip? All right, while we wait for Bettina's connection, we're moving on to more stories, and definitely we'll circle back to that. Now, as the African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit wraps up, the continent's top military leaders have reaffirmed their commitment to confronting emerging threats to Africa's peace and security with a strong call for strategic collaboration. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, in his closing remarks, emphasized that Africa's future depends on united action against shared threats like terrorism, piracy, cyber warfare, and armed banditry. Held in Abuja, the summit underscored the importance of intelligence sharing, stronger border security, homegrown defense technologies, and sustainable funding to protect the continent's stability.
We have recognized that our strongest defense is strategic collaboration. This summit has been a declaration of Africa's determination to take ownership of its peace, stability, and future. Our greatest weapon is our unity. Let's continue to harness this unity to build a safer, more secure Africa. Sharing intelligence, conducting joint operations, and coordinating counter-radicalization efforts are essential. Counter-radicalization efforts remain non-negotiable, as terrorism anywhere on our continent is a threat to peace everywhere in Africa. Africa must increasingly look inward, developing indigenous industries, fostering innovation, and strengthening defense economies to reduce dependency and build resilience.
Let's take a look at politics now. The All Progressives Congress has confirmed that its presidential ticket for the 2027 general election remains open to all contestants despite widespread endorsement of President Bola Tinubu for a second term. The party's National Organizing Secretary, Suleiman Argungu, emphasized that no aspirant would be denied the opportunity to purchase nomination forms and contest, stressing the party's commitment to democratic principles. The APC will adhere to the Independent National Electoral Commission timetable and the Electoral Act to ensure a credible and inclusive process. Recent by-election wins in opposition states reflect growing public confidence in the APC and Tinubu's administration. Still on the 2027 presidency, meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party is intensifying political consultations as some of its leaders push for former President Goodluck Jonathan to emerge as the party's candidate in the 2027 presidential race. The development comes after the party's National Executive Committee, NEC, resolved to zone the presidential ticket to the south during its 102nd meeting in Abuja. The zoning decision has since stirred debate, particularly among northern groups who reject the arrangement and insist it could be overturned by the party's national convention. To more stories, registration exercise has begun in all the 17 local government areas of Plateau State in the ongoing continued voter registration nationwide program. As organized by Nigeria's Independent Electoral Commission, the exercise, which began last week, will last till August 2026. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe is currently at the Plateau State INEC office where this exercise is ongoing. Chizoba, can you tell us how this exercise is going where you are?
Thanks, Blessings, for having me this morning. I am here at the head office of the INEC in Plateau State. And then if you can see behind me, a number of people are here, residents of Jos are here to register for their voter cards to be able to vote and, of course, be voted for in future if they seek for that. And so what I gathered earlier is that people have been turning up for this registration exercise, which began officially in Jos on Monday. They've had like over 100 people that have registered so far, and the exercise is still ongoing. However, some people say that the turnout has been low, considering the number of people out there that have not registered or have not come to even claim their voter card since the last exercise in Nigeria. And so, I mean, the exercise again has been smoothly going on. There hasn't been any challenges witnessed by anybody for those that I spoke with off camera earlier on. But of course, I have with me here one of the officials of this exercise of INEC to give us a brief of how it has been going. So please, can we have you here? Thank you. So tell us your name.
My name is John Sokden Cornelius. I am the head of the voters registration process.
All right, can you tell us so far what this exercise has been able to gather?
We have been able to register people that have turned 18 and people that were not able to register previously. Maybe they have not been in the country or elsewhere. And so we were able to register a good number already. And apart from that, we have also been able to transfer people from one location to another. Recall, we had created a good number of polling units. And so we expect people to move from congested polling units to less congested polling units, especially the new ones. So we have been able to transfer a good number of people. And then people do come for updates, corrections, change of the date of birth, and so on and so forth. And we have been able to handle that. And the center has been running so smoothly and seamlessly. The process has been very good. And we encourage people to use our self-service platforms. Here you can log in using your Google Chrome, register yourself using your Google account, then you access our services, including transfers. You don't need to come to our office. You can effect your transfer. You can do correction of date of birth and name. You can do your update and reviews, and so on and so forth. Even if you are a fresh registrar, we expect that you do your pre-registration, then you come here just to capture. So basically, that is what we do. And the process is going to continue until sometime next year. But we advise that people should take advantage of these early moments. Because if you wait until rush hours, you will always have some challenges.
Thank you very much. Well, we want to know what is INEC, especially in Plateau State, doing about sensitization, because I know that so many people are yet to know about this ongoing exercise. So what is INEC in Plateau State doing to ensure this gap is bridged?
We appreciate people like you for coming around, because we believe that the media will be able to reach out to many Plateau people and people resident that to get to know that this process is ongoing and it's daily from 9 to 3 p.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily, except for weekends. So we advise that people should take advantage of this moment that is less busy. There's not much congestion. It's seamless. You don't spend up to 20 minutes in this place. But henceforth, going forward, when we get to rush hours, people spend up to 4-5 hours and they begin to complain as if the fault is from INEC. So we advise that people should take advantage of this moment.
Thank you very much for giving us the time. All right, so we switch again to Mr. Fidelis, young Mr. Fidelis. He just turned 18 and he is here to also do his civic responsibility.
To find out what's happening.
Fidelis, tell us how you feel.
Shizaba, if you can hear me, we need to move. I apologize for interrupting, but we'll come back to find out what's happening. Let's go back to the story that we earlier mentioned about the Africa Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit, which is wrapping up. And the continent's top military leaders have affirmed or reaffirmed their commitment to confronting emerging threats to Africa's peace and security. And they also emphasized the need for collaboration. My colleague, Sagir Ibrahim, who has been covering the summit for the past 3 days, gives us the updates now on what has been happening. Sagir Ibrahim, now I understand that General Musa has placed a strong emphasis on the need for collaboration when it comes to tackling the threats to Africa's peace and stability. What are the resolutions that have been concluded on as the summit wraps up?
Well, good afternoon, Blessing. The summit wrapped up yesterday, of course, being Wednesday, the 27th of August, with a communique that was adopted by all of the chief of defense staffs of the different African nations that were present as at the moment. A memorandum of understanding was signed, and also ahead in 2026, we were expected that a defense exhibition is going to hold so as to allow all Africa's chiefs of defense staff and all of those who are within the military hardware ecosystem to come together to showcase their military hardware and, of course, to use it as an opportunity to do business in terms of, because the chief of defense staff actually mentioned that it is important to generate local solutions to local problems. So the intention is to ensure that these local problems are huge and big enough, to solve all of the local solutions, are big enough to solve all of the local problems that we have. What are the local problems? Insecurity in terms of terrorism, banditry, piracy on the in the maritime sector, digital threats, which also include the use of artificial intelligence for deep fakes, fake videos, synthetic audios, and the likes of that. Now, they are coming to understand that it's now important for us to come together to work, and the only way we can do so is pool resources, share knowledge, and therefore address the challenges at one continent.
Now, the summit ended with commitments to even a memorandum of understanding for a defense exhibition in Lagos. What impact could these outcomes have on Africa's long-term security strategy?
Well, for me, I would say the impact it's going to have is it's going to provide a platform for African weapons manufacturers, Africa's military hardware manufacturers, and all of those who provide military hardware services to showcase what they have and what they can do. It's also going to provide a platform, for them to compare, if you call it that, what they can do with what the international counterparts are doing. Before Blessing, Africa, Nigeria has been touted to have a problem of consuming foreign goods and foreign products and leaving local manufactured products to rot. So this will provide a platform for them to show how much progress they have made in terms of manufacturing, production, and the provision of these military services. Hence, providing a platform for all African defense leaders, to come together to say, oh, okay, you're doing this well, we're not doing this well. What are the ways that we can learn from you in order to do ours better? Therefore, providing a conducive ecosystem for not just Africa's defense systems to thrive, but also the manufacturers themselves and other players in the industry to also thrive as well, thereby suppressing all of the threats that the continent has been facing for the longest time.
Sagir Ibrahim, thank you for the update on that. We'll go on a short break, but in the meantime, we did tell you that the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, has concluded his diplomatic trips, and Bettina Nweli is on standby to give us more updates on that after the break. Stay with us. You're still live with us on the 12 Report. Now, to give us more update on the president's diplomatic tour, just concluded diplomatic tour, Bettina Onweli, my colleague who has been following his journey, is on standby. Bettina, what would you say are the key takeaways from this trip that the president embarked on?
Thank you very much, Blessings. I think the key takeaways will be the 5 MoUs that were signed in Brazil. Now, according to what we have, the president signed 5 MoUs. The number 1 MoU was on Petrobras returning back to Nigeria's energy sector. Now, we know that this Brazil state-owned oil company exited Nigeria about 5 years ago, but we now see that they may resume operations very soon in Nigeria again. The second one was on aviation. Now, the matter of aviation is something that has had most of the media talking because we have one of Nigeria's biggest aviation companies also involved in it. We're talking about Air Peace, and they're going to be working hand in hand with another aviation company in Brazil. Now, before now, traveling from Nigeria to Brazil will take you a little over 23 hours. But having a direct flight from Nigeria to Brazil now will take us about 7 to 8 hours. So you would agree with me that that is one count or one front that the president has really done well. Now, the third one, we have the Nigeria-Brazil Formalized Cooperation. Now, this is something that is also going to help with technology exchange across borders of both countries. And we're also looking forward to that. We're also looking at the one that broadens economic ties, trade, agriculture, and innovation. And then last but not the least, we have the South-South Cooperation from dialogue to deal making. And these 5 MoUs, I think, are very important to the economic growth and technological growth of the country.
Now, amongst all the MoUs signed, which one do you think stands out the most and will be most beneficial?
Well, I'll look at the one that has to do with aviation and, of course, Petrobras as well. All the MoUs are important, but Petrobras coming back to Nigeria, we've seen how much the oil sector has suffered for a bit. And I think their coming back will indeed help the country, as well as the aviation. Now, imagine having to travel to another country and then you're spending almost an entire day on your air trip. But if you can get there, do your business, and get back the same day, then I believe it's a win-win for both countries involved.
Really, thank you for the update on the presidential trip that was just concluded. We appreciate your time. The Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has assured of its readiness to conduct the August 30 local government elections. Despite claims and counterclaims by some civil society groups and factionalized political parties, the electoral umpire says all is set for the election. News Central's Bola Festus is standing by at RISIC headquarters in Port Harcourt to give us more update. Bola, how are the people gearing up for the election?
Listen, we've been to some local government areas earlier in the day, and the people said they are ready, although there are still some dissenting voices who have said because their party is not on the ballot, they are not going to vote. For instance, the people in Okobo, where we were earlier this morning, some of them who are PDP faithful said they were not happy about the election because their party, which is PDP, do not field candidates in their LGA for this election. Now we are currently at the RISIC headquarters in Rivers State. Behind me, you can see these containers, which are election voting boxes. They are being moved to different LGAs ahead of the election. It's just one day to election. So these are non-sensitive materials. They had already started moving them. We were here yesterday and we also saw the same procedure or the same process going on. Today again, we are here and these non-sensitive materials have started moving to their different LGAs where the voters, of course, would cast their vote into these boxes. We've also seen posters of electorates being pasted at their different polling units and wards in preparation for the election. So this means some local government areas and some polling units have already, some persons from those places must have already seen their names pasted on the notice boards of their polling units. So they already know that, yes, I am eligible to vote in this election. So this is the process ongoing. The RISIC is set to meet with media personnel at 2 p.m. today. So after that meeting, we should be bringing you more updates on their preparedness and, of course, on what they are doing for this election. Blessings.
Thank you for the update. Let's move now to education matters. All eyes are on the federal government as it meets today to address lingering agitations from the Academic Staff Union of Universities following nationwide protests on Tuesday. This meeting aims to resolve issues surrounding the delayed implementation of the renegotiated 2009 FGN ASUU agreement, which triggered mass protests across campuses. Earlier this year, the government released 50 billion naira to offset earned academic allowances. However, ASUU insists significant concerns remain unresolved, including salary reviews, improved working conditions, university autonomy, and legal reforms related to the National Universities Commission and JAM. The meeting is expected to set a timetable for signing and gradually implementing the agreement. Joining us to discuss more on this is the National Mobilization Officer of Education Rights Campaign, Michael Adaramoye. Michael, one question. Do you genuinely believe that today's meeting would bring about a positive resolution when it comes to the ASUU versus the federal government and the decision on whether or not to go on strike? Michael, can you confirm you can hear me? All right, unfortunately, we aren't set to have Michael just yet. He's still trying to set up, but in the meantime, as the 2025-2026 academic session approaches, concerns are mounting over the poor state of government-owned primary and secondary schools in Delta State. Parents and guardians are worried that inadequate infrastructure could affect learning outcomes. At the same time, agitations or allegations of job kickbacks and extortions have been leveled against officials of the Delta State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB. News Central's Austin Azu reports from Asaba.
With school resumption just a few days away, parents in Delta State are raising alarms over dilapidated structure in government-owned primary and secondary schools. Classrooms, laboratories, and basic facilities remain in urgent need of repair.
The state of schools, especially government-owned, is to a reasonable level dilapidating. We still have one or two that the government have really taken upon themselves to work on, but a lot of them, so many of them are in a pitiable state, which really require urgent attention.
The truth of the matter is where you learn, the environment you have, all your education affects the input and the output. So the teachers are not motivated. You going to a place where the chairs are shaking, where the walls are cracked, where there's no light, where there's no fan. Of course, the teacher will not be able to give our best. Likewise, the students receiving education from such a place will greatly hamper assimilation, learning, and even your productivity. Very, very, very well.
Chairman of the Delta State Universal Basic Education Board, Samuel Marere, reaffirmed the government's commitment to upgrading school infrastructure across the states.
Yes, we have not been able to get there, to get to a place where every school have a classroom that is of international standard. His Excellency is very concerned and is doing everything within his powers. It will interest you to know that this year's counterpart funding of 6-point-something billion, the Delta State government was the first state to pay in full in Nigeria.
On allegations of job kickbacks and extortion, Marire strongly denied any wrongdoing, assuring that the board operates transparently and with integrity.
Let me be absolutely clear. 90% of approved projects have been completed. All contractors are duly paid. No gratuity or illicit payment was requested or received by me or any member of Delta SUBEB. An emergency meeting with contractors has already confirmed publicly that no money or percentage was paid to the chairman or any SUBEB official.
Stakeholders are advocating for a coordinated approach to address infrastructural challenges, including increased funding, proper oversight, and active community involvement to ensure students return to safe and conducive learning environments. In Asaba for News Central, Austin Azu.
Social media influencers and bloggers in Delta State, South Nigeria, are gathering in Asaba, the state capital, for this year's social media summit. Delegates and participants are expected to obtain valuable insights from the event and intend to use the knowledge acquired to promote national unity and become self-employed. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu is live at the venue to provide us with updates on the ongoing event in Asaba. Austin, let's quickly look at the state of the dilapidations in schools. How do you think that affects the people of Asaba?
First and foremost, good afternoon, Blessing. Delta State is one of the richest states in Nigeria, considering the amount of resources that is coming into the state. And it's quite baffling to some of the parents and guardians in the state, especially when students will be returning back to schools to see the state of infrastructural deficit across the state. However, like what the chairman of the SUBEB rightly stated, of course, he said that ongoing infrastructural revamping is ongoing. It will take a gradual process for the state to be able to meet the standard, what Deltans are expecting to see when it comes to international best standard. Obviously, some of the hard-to-reach communities are the worst hit when it comes to dilapidated infrastructure in public schools in the state. And we believe that the state governments and relevant authorities are taking all the necessary steps to address these infrastructural deficits across the state.
Now, let's go back to the gathering of the Youth for Social Media Summit. What are they hoping to achieve? It looks like it's going to be packed field on that day.
Okay, yes, here currently at the event where we have young people who have converged here at the Mariam Bageda Leisure Park to look at what the social media potential holds for them. But however, I have some of the participants here. Miracle, please step forward. We have Miracle Enuje, one of the participants, to bring us to speed. Okay, Miracle, as a social media influencer, you are here for this event. Yeah. Tell us what are the potentials that youth are expected to gain from this event?
Okay, welcome. This exposure will give the youth the opportunity to harness the advantages in social media. Because here in Delta State, for example, the narrative is being changed, and I believe that with the help of the state government, the social media industry is being used for the advantage of the people. For example, we know the Delta State. We know what has been in Delta State, like the militancy, the uprising, but now within the past few years, those have toned down because the state government has really put in place actions to make sure that we use social media, to make sure that the youth use social media. And this event is strengthening the state government efforts in employing the youth into social media industry. And I believe that by this third edition, before we hit the fifth edition, the advantages which include innovation, advocacy, information, redirection, even removing misinformation that we don't have here. So these are the things that we're looking at in this summit, and people will go home for it.
Thank you. All right, we have Faith Tupero here to bring us to speed. Okay, Faith, come this way, just a minute. Okay, tell us, in what area do you think this will enhance?
Move.
Like the social media. Okay, I think it will help give youth a voice. It will help them learn how to use social media to their own advantage, how to advocate with their pages, how to make money with their pages and all of that, yes, and also put them out on social media, yes, on the world. You know, social media is a new currency, yes, it's a global currency, so it puts you there in the world map, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Faith. Okay, we have heard it. They are quite enthusiastic to learn from what they intend to tap from this event, and hopefully they will be guided by the rules and regulations that regulate the social media usage in Nigeria. Back to you, Blessing.
Austin Azu, thank you so much for bringing us the updates from Delta. We're going on a short break now, and when we come back, the 12 report continues. Stay with us. You're still live with us on the 12 report, and a quick reminder, we mentioned that the ASUU is set to decide the next steps while the federal government meets on the 2009 agreement. Joining us to discuss more on this is the National Mobilization Officer of Education Rights Campaign, Michael Adaramoye. Michael, thanks for taking out time to join us on the news. Quick question. Do you think that today's meeting is going to lead to a positive resolution, considering the back and forth that has been had between the ASUU and the federal government, especially on the 2009 agreement so far?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here and also discussing this very important topic. And I mean, the first thing, just as you have said in the question, there's been a lot of back and forth recently. And I mean, about just a week, in fact, many were not even sure what the attitude of ASUU would be to the new development of the federal government trying to ignore some of the demands they've made. And if you look at these demands we are talking about, they are agreements that have been reached since 2009. And of course, the lecturers, I mean, ASUU as a union, has been patient enough with the government. In fact, this government with the government that enjoyed a very high level of patience from ASUU. Of course, if you look at the history of the education sector and ASUU, you see that most likely within a year or so, you hear ASUU start threatening strike. But with this government, ASUU has been patient enough to ensure that they give the government adequate time. So that from this meeting, what we expect is not, another round of empty promises or even postponement or even delay tactics that the government has been, using over the years. We will ensure that the government has had enough time for them to adequately decide on, what is next in the interest of public education and also in the interest of members of ASUU. So that this meeting itself is expected to be a meeting where concrete arguments are going to be reached to ensure that the strike action is averted. But going by the nature of the government itself and our experience over the years, which has made that many ASUU members and even many of us do not truly trust ASUU, so they trust the federal government. The level of trust has really diminished over the years, so that it's really not something you can tell that this meeting itself is going to produce a positive result from the hand of the government. But I can assure that ASUU as a union have been very patient and are ready to also ensure that they meet an amicable solution of these issues too. But the problem, like I said, over the years has been with the government trying to delay this agreement. We've had this agreement since about 16 years now. And if you know, the living conditions of members who are education staff, especially ASUU, have been very terrible. In fact, today in Nigeria, we have a professor earning just a little above 500,000 naira. You can then begin to imagine what people who are even of lower rank academically will be earning. So that the issues itself are very important issues that affect the welfare conditions of ASUU members, that also affect the state of public education. Because if you have a tolerant our schools, especially either polytechnic, either universities or so, you will see that they are all in uniform level of decay. In fact, the facilities that are needed to ensure learning and teaching are mostly absent or they are in terrible condition. So that there's need for government to use this opportunity to have a turnaround.
Okay, Michael, very quickly, I apologize for interrupting you, but very quickly, let's look at the possibilities that exist, right? We're not hoping that the meeting fails, but if at all this meeting fails like the ones before it, what alternative model of university funding or governance should Nigeria be seriously considering? Say the meeting fails.
Thank you very much. Although we hope that the meeting does not fail, and we hope that the government will wake up. But like I always say, there's no alternative to proper funding of education. It is the duty of government to fund education, and they must wake up to that. And if you look at our constitution under section 18, it is very clear. It is the duty and responsibility of government to fund education and ensure that citizens have opportunities to education, free education, at all levels too. But that part of our constitution has been largely ignored by the government, so that the fact is that there's no alternative to funding of education, which is why we call it public education, which is meant to be funded with public resources. And our question to the government over the years is that, do we not have enough resources to fund our own education? Do we not have enough resources to ensure that our lecturers are in good conditions. But the answer for us is that Nigeria itself has enough resources to ensure that they fund education properly and ensure that Nigerians have access to quality and free education. The only impediment is that the government has refused to do the needful. So that in the conclusion, it is clear that Nigeria itself has enough resources. But the only problem we've had over the years has been the negligence from government to fund the education sector. So there's no alternative to proper funding of education. The government must wake up to that responsibility and ensure that public education is well funded.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time with us on the news today. And to business, the federal government has begun talks with global insurers, including Lloyd's of London and the International Chamber of Shipping, to push for the removal of war risk insurance premiums on Nigerian-bound cargoes. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy Adegboyega Oyetola said Nigeria has secured its waters, citing zero piracy incidents in 4 years through investments like the Deep Blue project. Despite this project, importers have paid over $1.5 billion in premiums in 3 years. Stakeholders, including the Nigerian Shippers Council and Maritime Reporters Association of Nigeria, urged a reassessment, stressing the charges hurt trade competitiveness and increase costs of consumers. The Nigerian exchange closed Wednesday's session in the red as investors lost 324 billion naira, dragging market capitalization to 89.4 trillion naira. The all-share index fell by 512.60 points, or 0.36%, to 141,248.76, trimming the year-to-year date gain to 37.23%. Trading activity improved with 682.85 million shares exchanged in 21,651 deals worth 22.22 billion naira, up 72% in value from the previous session. Market breadth was negative, with 40 losers against 17 gainers. Cornerstone Insurance led the losers, while Deep Capital topped gainers. FCMB posted the highest volume, while Aradel led by value. Sectoral performance was also mixed. Coming up, son of Equatorial Guinea's president convicted for selling national plane. We've got the details after the break. Stay with us. What started as a spark of activism among Kenya's youth has ignited into a full-blown political movement. The face of this new wave, Boniface Mwangi, a Kenyan human rights activist, now aims for the highest office in the land. Mwangi announced on Wednesday that he would run for president in 2027. Joining us to discuss more on this is a political analyst, Tele Unsomo. Tele, thank you for your time with us on the news. Now, it's one thing to have political fans, fans for your activism movement on the streets, but it's another thing to translate that support into the political landscape, especially looking at the Kenya political landscape of 2025. So do you think that Boniface's attempt or bid to run for presidency in 2027 will be a success?
First of all, thank you for having me. Boniface Mwangi is essentially representing a new breed of politicians in Kenya. He's trying to work almost as a political outsider, joining our former Chief Justice David Maraga, who has also announced that he will be contesting the presidency. And they want to, they want to play politics differently from how we've seen. They want to try and be, a non-tribal, non-ethnic way of mobilizing our people and mobilizing voters. It's a new way of doing. They're trying to bring this new way of doing politics. I highly doubt that he'll be successful. I think that in this country we're still very, very tribal, but I think it could start possibly a new wave and a new way of thinking, especially with this new generation of voters who are looking at politics very, very differently from how we've seen in the last 60 years of Kenyan independence. But for now, I think it's just something that is beginning. But whether he'll be successful, I highly doubt it in the coming election.
So in your view, what are the key factors that sway voters during Kenyan elections? Are issues like activism, youth movement, or street mobilization significant when it comes to political elections?
Right now in Kenya, our number one thing, unfortunately, is that Kenya is still very ethnic, Kenya is still very tribal, and ethnicity is still the driving factor in how our politics and how our how our voters are being mobilized. And if you look at the two main political formations, the ruling formation, which is President William Ruto, who has now been joined by Raila Odinga, and you look at the opposition that has the former Deputy President Rigathi, the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, and others, you see two areas that are very much tribal. But the second thing that will also be a huge factor is the William Ruto factor. I do believe that a lot of people, or the next election will be a referendum on William Ruto. I think a lot of people might come out to vote against William Ruto and probably vote for the person who has the best chance of trying to beat him. And I think those are some of the things that might derail the likes of Boniface Mwangi and as I said, Maraga, and also Kia Mtata, who's also running, from actually having a very huge or being successful in the next election.
Thank you, Tilly, for your time. Now we go outside Africa. The United States has doubled tariffs on most imports from India, raising them to 50%. Washington says the move is punishment for New Delhi's purchase of discounted Russian oil, which it claims helps to fund Moscow's war in Ukraine. Bongani Ziziba reports.
The tariffs, among the highest ever imposed on India, took effect at midnight in Washington. President Donald Trump had announced the decision earlier this month, saying he would not tolerate what he called unfair trade practices. The move threatens billions in Indian exports, raising fear of retaliation and adds new strain to global supply chain already under pressure from geopolitical tensions.
इसकी वजह से ये दिक्कत ये आ रही है कि अब जैसे लोगों के प्राइसेस बढ़ गए, अब कोई भी सिंगल कमोडिटी को देखने के लिए अब भी बड़ी दिक्कत ये हो जाती है, सिंगल कमोडिटी को देखने के लिए अब उसको भी सिंगल पे भी उसको 50% करना पड़ रहा है। अब पहले तो बल्क होता था तो फिर भी एक बार के लिए चलो ठीक है पूरा बल्क, अब सिंगल भी किसी को कुछ भी ऑर्डर करना था तो वो टैक्स उसमें इतना बढ़ जाता है कि वो आउट ऑफ द रीच हो जाता है पर्सन के उससे।
India has condemned the move as unjust and discriminatory. Officials warn the tariffs could push the country closer to Russia and China.
I think some of the statements that we've witnessed coming out of Washington over the last few weeks have again given rise to that sentiment that the United States is an unreliable partner. And that sentiment, I think, is very pervasive at this point of time in India.
For the first time since a deadly border clash in the Himalayas in 2018, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is now set to travel to Beijing. He will attend a summit hosted by President Xi Jinping, a clear sign of warming ties between the two Asian giants. Analysts say the tariffs fit into a wider pattern of Trump's hardline trade policy, targeting both rivals and allies, while threatening duties on countries accused of discrimination against U.S. tech firms.
रूस से भारत तेल खरीदता है इसलिए इसके ऊपर 50% टैरिफ लगाते हैं। अगर हमारी वस्तुओं के ऊपर 50% का टैक्स लगता है तो नेचुरल सी बात है वो जो टैक्स बढ़ेगा तो कस्टमर भी जानता है जो चीज़ सस्ती होगी उसको लेगा, ना कि वो ज़्यादा वैल्यू को ऑफर करेगा।
With the inflation pressure growing and markets jittery, the world is watching closely to see how the tariff war reshapes alliances and the global economy itself. For now, the standoff between Washington and New Delhi shows no sign of easing. The battle lines in the trade war remain firmly drawn. For News Central, Bongani Ziziba.
In an age where TikTok dances go viral overnight, an ancient wrestling ritual from a remote Senegalese village just scored the internet on what real entertainment looks like. Welcome to Cabruz, where a single Instagram clip has racked up over 765,000 views and counting. The star not a celebrity or influencer, but centuries-old Senegalese wrestling, lamb as it's called in Wolof, captured in all its raw, mesmerizing glory. The harvest is done, the sun is set, and young men gather packed earth around the sun. What happens next is part athletic competition, part spiritual ritual, part poetry in motion. These aren't your modern WWE theatrics. This is wrestling as dance, as meditation, as community celebration rolled into one breathtaking spectacle. The rules are beautifully simple. Bring any part of your opponent's body to the ground and you win. But watching it unfold is like witnessing choreographed lightning. Every move demands perfect balance, split-second timing, and profound respect for your opponent. This tradition traces back to the Sierra and Diola communities where post-harvest bouts once crowned village champions and reinforced bonds that held communities together. Winners used to take home cattle and grain. Today, victory commands something even more valuable: viral fame and cultural pride spanning continents. And yes, all that wrestling is definitely keeping the men fit. Just saying. So while algorithms chase the next fleeting trend, sometimes the most captivating content has been perfecting itself for centuries, somewhere in Senegal. From Casaman's rice fields to your smartphone screen, that's the power of authentic culture meeting digital curiosity. And that is your postscript. Well, that said, in the Nigeria Premier Football League, Cool Khalifa FC face an early exit as they appeal for financial support to continue in the 2025-2026 season. Let's quickly hear from Favor Itua. Favor, are you ready for us?
Yes, blessings. Cool Khalifa FC currently in a dilemma, looking for funds to prosecute the season. And one would say they just started the season with the first match day of the season with 37 games to go. But of course, they will be looking for updates on that. But more updates on In the Game.
Well, you've heard it. Stay tuned for In the Games for more on the sports stories. And remember, you may send your eyewitness to us because we want to see what you see. Do well to follow us across all socials. We are at News Central TV. And you can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, Gold TV channel 23, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Mwangi.